Hello students, I am your educator Dr. Hina Devnani, and today we are going to study chapter number 6 of 10th standard science, that is life process. This is the second part of this chapter. First part has already been discussed, and if you all remember, we have studied 7 important life processes of a living organism. These life processes are important for differentiating a living organism from a non-living thing. So today we are going to study one of those important life processes, that is nutrition. First of all, a simple definition of nutrition. What is nutrition? The process of taking in food material or food particles so that energy can be extracted from it. This is known as nutrition, and the complex definition is given here. Energy required to carry out different life processes is obtained through the process of nutrition. Now just tell me why this energy is required. Why does a living organism has to eat or has to take in food so that energy is released? Why? Because energy is required to carry out various other life processes which are actually very important for the living organism. Now, depending on the mode of obtaining nutrition, organisms are classified as autotrophs or heterotrophs. Autotrophs means the organism which can prepare their own food. What they do? They prepare their food from simple inorganic sources. They take in simple sources, inorganic sources, and convert them into organic compounds, which are complex organic compounds. Which are these inorganic substances? Carbon dioxide and water. And which are the complex organic compounds? Glucose. So that is their food material, and the autotrophs have prepared it on their own. Example of autotrophic organisms: green plants and some bacteria. Then second type of organisms are heterotrophic organisms, or you can also call them as heterotrophs. They cannot synthesize their own food. So from where do they get their food? They get their food from autotrophs. That means they are dependent on other organisms for obtaining complex organic substances. They directly take the complex organic substances. Autotrophs take the simple inorganic substances and convert them into organic substances, whereas heterotrophs directly take the complex organic substances. Examples: animals and fungi. Now just think, humans come in which of these two types? Humans come in heterotrophs. Humans also cannot synthesize their own food. Now one by one we are going to study both of these. First, let us study autotrophic nutrition. Autotrophic nutrition is a type of nutrition in which organisms synthesize the organic materials they require from inorganic sources. Chief sources of carbon and nitrogen are carbon dioxide and nitrates. The carbon is obtained from carbon dioxide and the nitrogen sources are nitrates. Now, autotrophic nutrition is carried out by all the green plants. Here you have to remember that it should be green plants. Why green plants? Because green plants have chlorophyll in them. So all the green plants are autotrophic and use light as a source of energy for the synthesis of food through photosynthesis. You can see here, this is sunlight. Sunlight falls on the plant and the chlorophyll accepts the sunlight, and when it accepts the sunlight, it also takes in some inorganic substances, and then it carries out a very important process which is called as photosynthesis. When photosynthesis is done, the product of photosynthesis are sugar, that is a complex organic substance. You can also call it as glucose, and oxygen. We all know that plants release oxygen. So these are the byproducts of a process which is called as photosynthesis, a process which is carried out by all the green plants. These green plants absorb water from the soil by roots. We all know that plants have roots, and these roots have a function of absorbing water and minerals from the soil. Why does a plant absorb water? So that it can be helpful in carrying out photosynthesis. Another important substance that a plant takes in is carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide comes from the atmosphere. Plants take in through stomata. Now, what are these stomata? Stomata are minute pores which are present on the leaves of plants. These stomata can be open and closed as and when required. So when they are open, carbon dioxide enters through them, and it helps in the process of photosynthesis. Sunlight is absorbed by chlorophyll. What is chlorophyll? A green colored pigment present in the leaves and other parts of the plant. So this is the entire process of photosynthesis. These are the raw materials that are required for photosynthesis. Once again, we'll do what are the raw materials? The raw materials are water, which is absorbed from the soil by the roots, CO2 or carbon dioxide that comes from the atmosphere through stomata, and sunlight, which is actually absorbed by chlorophyll. So these are the raw materials. When they come together inside the plant cell, it will carry out a process called as photosynthesis, and then it will give out sugar, that is complex organic substance, or we can also call it in simple language as food of the plant. And oxygen is released into the atmosphere. These are the actual events that occur during this process, and you all have to remember these three events. First event is absorption of light energy by chlorophyll. First of all, what will happen? The light will be absorbed by chlorophyll. That is the first step. Now what will happen? The light energy will be converted to chemical energy. Light energy is converted to chemical energy. Along with this step, there is another process that occurs here, and that is splitting of water molecule. We all know water comes from the roots. So here, along with the conversion of light energy to chemical energy, water molecule will also be splitted. You can see here, see H2O is written here. It goes down and O2 comes here. That means water molecule is splitted into hydrogen and oxygen. Here there is hydrogen and here there is oxygen. So oxygen is produced in this step. Third step is reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrates. So now CO2, this carbon dioxide will be converted to carbohydrates, that is glucose. So this is the third step. Now you have seen here, light, water, carbon dioxide, all three raw materials are used, and oxygen and glucose, both the products are formed here. So I hope you all are clear with the three steps that occur during photosynthesis. First is absorption of light energy by chlorophyll. Second is conversion of light energy to chemical energy, and along with this, splitting of water molecules into hydrogen and oxygen. And third step is reduction of carbon dioxide to carbohydrates. This is the reaction that occurs during photosynthesis. CO2, carbon dioxide, plus H2O, that is water, in the presence of sun's energy inside the chlorophyll, gets converted and forms sugar, that is C6H12O6, and oxygen. Here again there is another figure. To simplify this process, sunlight plus carbon dioxide plus water, photosynthesis, glucose plus oxygen. These five things you all have to remember. Let's move to second type of nutrition, that is heterotrophic nutrition. All the heterotrophs depend on autotrophs for their nutrition. Heterotroph organisms cannot make their own food, and hence they have to depend on the autotrophic organisms for their nutrition. Now these heterotrophic organisms are divided into three types based on their nutrition. First, holozoic organisms carrying out holozoic nutrition. What is the meaning of this holozoic nutrition? When complex food substances are taken directly and as a whole substance, it is called as holozoic nutrition. And this is taken into a specialized digestive system, and then it is broken down into small pieces, and then it is absorbed. That means organisms which carry out digestion are called as holozoic organisms. They take the food as complete organic substances and then carry out digestion and then break it into small pieces to be absorbed. Example, amoeba and humans. Second type of heterotrophic nutrition is saprophytic nutrition. What happens in this nutrition? Organisms feed on dead organic remains of the organisms. That means these organisms take in the decaying substances, or they themselves are actually responsible for the decaying process. Example, fungi like bread molds. Bread molds means the fungus that is present on the bread, yeast and mushrooms. That means all the fungi are saprophytic in nature. Third type of nutrition is parasitic nutrition. Organisms obtain food from other living organisms, and the other living organism is called as the host. with the host receiving no benefit from the parasite. Example, Cuscuta, this is a plant, ticks, lice, leeches, and tapeworms. These are the parasites which actually harm their host and take in the nutrition from their host. Some of them, like ticks and lice and leeches, they are external parasites because they are present outside the body, whereas tapeworms are present inside the body. So they are known as internal parasite or intrinsic parasites. How do organisms obtain their nutrition? Here we'll be talking about heterotrophic organisms. In single-celled organisms, the food may be taken in by the entire surface. And single-celled organism, the best example is amoeba. Amoeba takes in food using temporary finger-like extensions of the cell surface which fuse over the food particle, forming a food vacuole. Can you tell me what is this finger-like extension called? It is called as a pseudopodia. Pseudopodia means false food. What does amoeba does? It makes a false food, it makes pseudopodia, it makes extensions of this pseudopodia, and it engulfs the entire food particle. I'll show you the diagram, then you'll understand it very clearly. Now what happens when the food enters the body of the amoeba? It is a single celled organism, so when it enters the cell of the amoeba, it forms a food vacuole. Inside the food vacuole, complex substances will be broken down and they will be converted into simple substances. If you remember the nutrition of amoeba, it is holozoic. That means amoeba takes complex organic substances as food. So it has to convert it into simpler ones. And once it is completed into simple, then what it does? It diffuses into the cytoplasm. The food is diffused into the cytoplasm. Now after this process, the undigested material will be remaining inside the food vacuole and it is moved to the surface of the cell and then it is just thrown out from the surface. Let's have a look at this figure. This is the food particle. This is the pseudopodia. You can see that it is getting extended. Here see it has extended a lot and here it has covered the entire food particle. This covering forms a food vacuole. So here a food vacuole is formed. Now inside the food vacuole, all the digestion process will go on. So we can say this was ingestion and here digestion will take place. When the digestion is completed, it is converted into simple substances and hence absorption will take place. After absorption, the cell will use all the simple substances that it has absorbed. This process is called as assimilation. And after assimilation, whatever undigested material is there, it is simply thrown out of the cell surface and it is called as egestion. So you need to remember all the 5 steps: ingestion, digestion, absorption, assimilation, and egestion. Now, the most interesting topic, that is digestive system of humans. We are humans and most of us are actually interested in all the processes that are occurring inside our body. And that's why in 10th standard, we need to study most of the life processes of human beings. So let's begin it. This is the diagram of the alimentary canal of a human. These are some of the organs which you are going to study. These are the organs of alimentary canal. The alimentary canal starts with mouth. You all know where is the mouth. The mouth includes teeth, tongue, and salivary glands. Mouth will then lead to esophagus. This is the tube-like structure which is known as esophagus. After esophagus, stomach. This thing is known as stomach. After stomach, there will be small intestine. Small intestine is again divided into 3 parts, but that you will be studying in higher classes. So we'll have small intestine here. This is small intestine. Just follow this laser pointer. You'll understand everything. This is entire thing is small intestine. It is curved. It is folded into many folds. It is the longest part of the alimentary canal. Then after small intestine, here there is the large intestine. Large intestine is short in length. Small intestine is greater in length. Now here a question arises, when small intestine is greater in length and large intestine is shorter in length, why the small intestine is called as small? And why the large intestine is called as large? Why it is opposite? No, it is not opposite. The small intestine has a smaller diameter, whereas large intestine has a larger diameter. And that's why the names have been given. After large intestine, rectum. Rectum is the storage place of all the undigested food or the feces. And then anus. So let's start nutrition in human beings. As I said, digestion of food takes place in the alimentary canal. Now, along with alimentary canal, the digestive system also consists of glands. As you can see here, salivary glands, then this is liver, this is also a gland, and here there is pancreas. So these three glands are present. Now, all the organs that you have seen here, they all have different functions. And the functions of all of these organs are very important for carrying out digestion. First of all, when we take in the food, we take it in the mouth. So what happens in the mouth? Food is crushed. It is crushed into smaller particles by chewing with the help of teeth. And the food is mixed in the mouth with the help of tongue. Along with this, the salivary glands release saliva. So the food is mixed with saliva. Can you tell me the reason why the food is mixed with saliva? So that it becomes easy to swallow it. Here, we need to chew it very nicely, thoroughly we need to chew it so that the entire food is mixed with saliva. And if it is properly mixed with saliva, proper digestion can take place. Now, one more function of salivary gland is it secretes amylase. Amylase is an enzyme which is responsible for digesting starch. So once the food is mixed with saliva, it is easy to swallow it, as well as the digestion of starch with starch here. Starch means carbohydrates. Now what happens? Now the food is swallowed. Once the food is swallowed, it enters into pharynx. Pharynx is a region which is the connection between the respiratory tract and the alimentary canal, the neck region, that is known as pharynx. From the pharynx, the food enters the esophagus and the air or the oxygen enters into the respiratory tract. So pharynx is actually a place which differentiates the oxygen and the food. So here the food will go to the esophagus. What is esophagus? It is this long tube. This entire thing is called as esophagus. And then it reaches the stomach. Now in stomach, what happens? In stomach, gastric juice is released. Gastric juice means the liquid that is released from the wall of the stomach, inner wall of the stomach. Gastric juice contains three things. One is pepsin, second is HCl, and third is mucus. First of all, let us see why pepsin is released. Pepsin is released for digesting proteins. Here you have seen in the mouth, starch digestion took place. Starch digestion is not completed. It has been started here. In gastric juice, protein digestion will start. Now there is one problem with pepsin. Pepsin can work only in acidic medium. That means if acid is present, only then it will digest proteins. So to fulfill that condition, HCl is released from the inner wall of the stomach. Now what happens here? HCl is an acid, and we all know that acids harm our skin. So if it is released in our stomach, it is very obvious that it would harm the inner wall of our stomach. So to protect the inner wall of our stomach from the effects of HCl, mucus is released. So that is the function of all these three things. Pepsin is required for digesting proteins, HCl is required for activating pepsin, and mucus is required to protect the wall from the effects of HCl. See, this is the process of swallowing. You can see this bulging out of esophagus. This process is called as peristalsis. I want you all to note it down because this term is very important. The swallowing of the food from the wall of esophagus. When the wall of esophagus expands, it is known as, you can see here again, see, it is known as peristalsis. We swallow the food material with the help of peristalsis. After esophagus, there is an esophageal sphincter over here. That is a connection between stomach and esophagus. Here you can see this blue color liquid. This is the gastric juice. And you have seen that the food particle is broken down into smaller particles. That means digestion has taken place. Just have a look once again. This is esophageal sphincter. From here, the food particle goes in the gastric juice. Here it is broken down. See, the particle is broken down. That means digestion has taken place. It is not completed yet. And after this comes the small intestine. The hydrochloric acid creates an acidic medium which is actually responsible for the action of enzyme pepsin. The mucus protects the inner lining of the stomach from the action of the acid under normal condition. That I've already told you. Now from the stomach, the food will enter the small intestine now. And small intestine is actually the place where the digestion is completed. Here the digestion of carbohydrates will be completed, digestion of proteins will be completed, and digestion of fats will also occur here. Digestion of carbohydrates is simple, protein is simple, but digestion of fats is a little bit complex. Fats cannot be digested easily, so fats should be emulsified first. That means fats, the molecules of fats are broken down into smaller molecules and then they are digested. Now how they are broken down into smaller molecules? They are broken down with the secretion of bile. Bile juice is secreted from liver. Liver secretes bile and this bile is responsible for breaking down the fat molecules so that it is easy to digest it. Along with that, pancreas secrete pancreatic juice. Pancreatic juice contains enzymes such as amylase, trypsin and lipase. Amylase enzyme was secreted in the mouth. Now it is again secreted from the pancreas. Amylase is responsible for digesting starch. Trypsin is required for digesting the proteins and lipase is required for digesting the fats. In small intestine, carbohydrates, proteins and fats are completely digested. Carbohydrates are converted into glucose, proteins are converted into amino acids and fats are converted into fatty acids and glycerol. What is this glucose, amino acid, fatty acid and glycerol? They are the monomers of these complex substances. Carbohydrates, proteins and fats are actually polymers. That means they are made up of many molecules. And glucose, amino acids, fatty acids and glycerol are the monomers. Now here the digestion is completed and monomers have been formed. That means very small and simple substances have been formed. Now what happens? Inside the small intestine, finger-like projections occur. Finger-like projections are villi. What is the function of this villi? The function of villi is to absorb the digested food. And once the digested food is absorbed, it is sent to the blood. And from blood, it is sent to every cell of the body. So that all the cells can take the substances and carry out the respiration process. That means they can carry out the process of extracting energy from this food. Now here the food is digested, the food is absorbed. Now whatever is remaining, the undigested and unabsorbed food is sent into the large intestine where there are more villi and these more villi has a function of absorbing water from this material. Rest of the material after the removal of water is removed from the body via anus. First it is stored in rectum and then it is removed via anus. Have a look at this. We have already seen till here. Now, the food enters the duodenum, that is the part of small intestine. You can see here through pyloric sphincter. Here there is pyloric sphincter, and the food will enter into the duodenum, that is the part of intestine. Now here it goes into the small intestine, all the parts of small intestine. It is a very twisted thing. This is the inner part of small intestine. Here the digestion is taking place. That means the food particles have been broken down further. After breaking down, after the complete digestion, what will happen? The villi will do absorption. You can see here, when this will be completed, you can see that there are villi, finger-like projections, and they will carry out absorption. After absorption, they will go to the large intestine. Then there will be, this is villi, then there will be absorption of water, and after that, there will be completion of our digestive system, completion of our digestion. So here we complete the topic of nutrition. Next time we'll be doing respiration. If you have any doubt, you can contact me. And till then, keep studying and have a nice day.